We're talking to Bibi Netanyahu, former Prime Minister of Israel, one of the great leaders, really, of all times. I have stated that he reminds me in many ways of modern-day Churchill. You served in what is equivalent to the United States SEALs. It's much smaller, but it's a special forces unit among the special forces in Israel. And you write about this at some length. You write about the various men you serve with, your commanders and so forth. It's interesting. Some of them became prime ministers themselves. Ehud Barak, Rabin. Tell us about the Sabena Airline hijack.
Well, when I was a senior team commander in the special unit, I came one night to our base, and there was no one in the base. And they told me, well, there's been a plane hijacking. These two Palestinian men and two Palestinian women had hijacked a plane. They landed it in Tel Aviv airport, and they're going to blow up the plane unless Israel releases hostages, or rather imprisoned terrorists, to fly them to a country of their choice. And we drove to the airport. Our unit had already punctured the tires, and the Moshe Dayan, who was defense minister, was negotiating with the terrorists, and he made it appear as though we were willing to give them what they wanted. And in the meantime, we'd prepare the plane for takeoff. And they took 16 of our soldiers, including me, to dress up as mechanics, and we'd come in a baggage train, and we'd fix up the plane. And when we got into position, next to the entrances of the plane has a lot of entrances, and you bang it from the outside, and the door pops out. So that was the plan. And we got to the plane. They had the Red Cross official frisk us. He noticed within view of the terrorists in the cockpit, and he noticed that I had a gun there in a pistol in my boot. And he said, "Mon Dieu," my God. And I had, with my halting French, I said, "Dieu est grand," God is great. Let me through. Didn't tell the terrorists. Climbed on the wing. We're ready to go, waiting for Barak, who stood on the tarmac, and he was going to blow a whistle, and we were going to go through. And then one of the guys next to me told me, "You got to stop the operation." I said, "Why?" Well, he was a reservist who had been specially trained in using handguns to protect airline security. And he said, "I flew in from London, didn't have a chance to go to the bathroom, got to go now." I said, "You have to go now?" He said, "Now." I said, "Big or small?" He says, "Big." I said, "All right." Jumped off the plane, told Barak, "We got to stop this. He has to, take care of himself." He goes under the fuselage, relieves himself. We go back, and Barak blows the whistle, and we storm into the plane. One woman sitting right next to the door that I opened got hit by a bullet from a terrorist. The other two terrorists were hit in the front of the plane. And, I'm looking, when I wanted to go in, and this was the big problem. Before we did all this, my older brother, who was senior to me, he says, "I'm going in there too." And I said, "What? You can't do that." He said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I'm going in." He said, "So we'll both go in." I said, "Yoni, there are 16 people in close quarters. We can't both go in there. Think of what will happen. What will you say to mother and father?" And then he said something I couldn't believe that he said it. He said, "Bibi, my death is my own, my life is my own, and my death is my own." And he had this iron determination. Well, we went to Barak, who sided with me, so he was left waiting while we were storming. So we're storming now the cockpit and the airplane, and I'm looking for the explosives. And somebody's saying, "Here's one of the terrorists." And there's a woman there. I yank her hair. It's a wig. It comes off. I yank her hair again. And one of the people in one of the unit members says, "Bibi, let me handle her." And he slaps her with a pistol, loaded pistol, on the face. The bullet goes through her right into my arm. Felt like a sledgehammer hit me. And I was taken off the plane. It ended in 2 minutes, this whole operation. Killed the two terrorists, captured the two women. No charges exploded. And I was lying on the tarmac, wounded. And Yoni, I see him rushing from afar. He's getting closer and closer. There's a terrible look of anxiety on his face. And he stands above me, and he sees a splatter of blood on the white overall of mechanics, on my sleeve. And it's this huge grin spreads on his face. And he says, "You see, Bibi, I told you not to go." And I was lucky because the bullet didn't hurt my nerve or bone. So he continued. He stayed on in the unit. I left the military a year after that. He stayed, and 4 years later, he commanded the historic rescue at Entebbe, which has really no precedent in military history, and in modern history. And he was killed while leading his men in rescuing the hostages in the heart of Africa.
Your brother Yoni, as you write extensively, and my wife read, and I read over her shoulder, the letters he would send to you, to your younger brother, to your parents, was a brilliant sort of Renaissance man and just a man's man. And it's obvious in your book and elsewhere through your life what an impact he had on you and what an impact his death had on you. And what a great hero he was in Entebbe, and the American people are well familiar with Entebbe.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.